This morning, I wanted to kind of jump into some stuff that I was reading in the media today about Morehouse College, and I don't know if y'all saw the situation with Morehouse, but basically Morehouse has kind of been in the middle of a what some might call a real embarrassing shit show the last few weeks, the last few months actually, maybe even years, where you've had a consistent ongoing dispute that was occurring between the chairman of the board, Robert Davidson, and former President John Wilson. And it kind of came to a head when Davidson kind of spearheaded an effort. Allegedly, it appears that he has spearheaded an effort that led to the removal of Wilson, and the removal was what some might consider to be unethical, uh, and it may be problematic to the point where their accreditation as a university is actually being threatened. The Southern Association of Colleges and Schools has basically said that that they're going to investigate, and that if it turns out that Morehouse that they were violating their own rules by locking out students and faculty who were going to vote against the chairman's recommendation, that they might actually be put on probation, which would just be a real embarrassment for the school. Even more embarrassing than that whole situation with the mean girls at Morehouse. I don't know if y'all remember that, which was real interesting, where they had to implement the dress code to tell the guys to stop wearing high heels to class and stuff like that. But anyway, but that's for another day. We'll talk about that later. But so Dual Victory says nice shirt and tie ensemble. Well, thank you. I'm so bad at matching colors. I don't. They what they say about men being colorblind might actually be true. So let me give you the latest. So here's what happened. Okay, so the latest report from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is that Morehouse College has replaced its president and the board chairman, which I would have recommended doing that. It seemed to me, and it's unfortunate though, because it seemed that the president, John Wilson, was actually very good for the university. It's that chairman of the board who might have been well intended, who might have been good for the university at one point. I don't think that his most recent actions were reflective of the kind of integrity that you'd hope to have from a board chairman. I don't know Mr. Davidson at all. I only met John Wilson a couple of times. But, I got a sense that what Davidson did was really sort of settling a personal beef with John Wilson at the expense of the university, at the expense of the university's reputation. And to me, if you really love Morehouse, you just can't do that. If you love the students, you can't do that. If you love the faculty, you can't do that. And the faculty came back and gave a no confidence vote on Davidson, the chairman. They got rid of him. But the thing is, so it's almost like almost like when two kids fight and you punish both of them, but one of them was really more responsible for the fight than the other. That's kind of how I see it. It almost looks like Davidson, the chairman of the board, who wanted to get rid of Wilson, was the one who was most to blame for all these problems. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's more to it. I'm not sure. But anyway, let me read some of this to you from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So they said Morehouse has replaced its president and board chairman effective immediately. A spokesman representing the board of trustees announced Friday, John S. Wilson, a Morehouse graduate who has been president since January 2013, will leave his position. William Taggart, the college's chief operating officer since 2015, is now the interim president. Robert Davidson, who graduated from Morehouse in 1967, will no longer be board chairman. The new chairman is Willie Woods, a co-founder of a New York-based finance company. So here we go. Let's see here. Okay, well, I want to say Squanto is saying that Dr. Boyce, don't worry. Dr. Umar Johnson just purchased the St. Paul's College and turned it into the Marcus Garvey Frederick Douglass Academy. I hope that's true. I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, if it's out there, then please send me some information. My email address is boyce@boycewatkins.com. If it's actually a physical institution that kids can enroll in, I'd be curious about that. Because last time I heard about Umar Johnson's school was that there was a lot of talk about it, and there was money being raised. People put money into it. I actually gave a donation to the school, but I have not heard anything about a school being built. But then again, though, I'll let you go and investigate that for me, and feel free to bring back any information that you have. D Holiday says, when are you going to get your first franchise? We're probably going to do some franchising very soon, actually. We have a program in the Black Business School called literally the Black Franchise Program. So if you go to theblackfranchiseprogram.com, don't forget the THE, theblackfranchiseprogram.com. Attorney Tanya Nebo out of Atlanta is actually teaching but she's working with me to teach people how to buy a franchise. So and you'll be amazed at how much money people can make overnight. Well, not overnight, but very quickly by picking the right franchise, getting into the right business deal. So, I would tell you that, and I'm going to get back to Morehouse in a minute, but since you're asking that question, I'll answer it. I will tell you that the way you think about making money plays a huge part in whether or not you get a chance to make money. A brother sent me a message today on Facebook that was very interesting. He said that each day he would come home from work and he would put his boots by the door. And he said he noticed his son was doing the same thing. His son was also putting his boots right next to his boots, in father son, kind of thing. And so he asked his son, he said, well, can you put your boots in your room? And he said, well, Daddy, I want to put my boots next to you because when I grow up, I want to be a worker just like you. And he said that made him, at least I got the impression that this led the father to reflect on, oh my God, my son is copying what I do. He's going to make money the way I make money. And so what I suggested was that, you make sure your children know how to make money in a lot of different ways. Attorney Nebo last night in class was discussing some people she knew who had regular 9 to 5 jobs who got in on a franchise deal and they became millionaires very quickly, like overnight, literally, because they went from playing the small game to playing the big game. If you play the small game, you get small rewards. You play the big game, you get big rewards. Now there's the big risks you might take as well. So don't get me wrong. It's not that it's risk free. It's not that it's easy. But if you really want to have a chance to have the big outcome, a lot of times you have to play the big game. So franchising, I think, is a way to play the big game with proven business models where you got companies that want you to succeed, excuse me, that are giving you the infrastructure that you need in order to be successful. And the caliber of faculty that I pull together in the Black Business School is the same caliber of faculty I would pull at a major university when I was teaching at, Syracuse and stuff like that. And so you can feel free to check it out at the blackfranchiseprogram.com, or our other programs are at blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's blackfinancialliteracy.com. Answer a couple of your other questions real quick. Tickets for the All Black National Convention are not sold yet. It's going to be in Louisville, Kentucky, though, September 29th through October 1st. Mark it on your calendar, September 29th through October 1st, Louisville, Kentucky. Also, I'll be in Atlanta, D.C., and Los Angeles this month, the month of April. So you can go to drboyceatlanta.com, drboycedc.com, or drboycelosangeles.com if you'd like to buy tickets. The events are all different in nature, but you can go check them out. Okay, so let's get back to Morehouse College. In case you just came in, I was just talking about Morehouse and the craziness going on in Morehouse, and really, really a situation that is embarrassing. Just incredibly embarrassing. And somebody says that white Jesus behind you, man, y'all are just some haters. No, that is a black Jesus. It ain't even my house, so that's why I had to look. But no, the Jesus is black, and I would lift up the phone so you could see it, but I'm clumsy as hell, so I'd probably end up dropping the phone. So in order to keep from embarrassing myself, I'm gonna just go ahead and just hope you'll take my word for it. Jesus and all the apostles and everybody else, they all black. They all got afros. So don't be hating. All right. So anyway, let's go back to Morehouse. So Morehouse, as I mentioned, the chairman of the board and the former president, John Wilson and Robert Davidson, they have both been sort of removed from the school. And right now, the school's still having trouble. The school is going to have some big problems because now they've got the accreditation boards, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, that are sort of investigating to see what happened. And what was really crazy to me about this was that you kind of had this guy, this chairman Davidson, who's been with Morehouse for a long time. He's got this big bloated board with 40 people on it, which is insane. A university board ain't supposed to have 40 people on it. You're better when you have maybe 15, no more than 20. But when you get to 40, that's kind of ridiculous. That's wasteful because those board members, from what I understand, most of them get paid. And it's not good for the school. And it's just this kind of sick cronyism that ends up disrupting the ability to do what you're supposed to do. You're not here to make people rich. You're not here to stroke your own egos. You're not here to engage in counterproductive cronyism. You're there to educate the young people. You're there to take care of the students. And what I love about the situation in Morehouse, though, was that the student trustees, every university will let a few students be on the board of trustees, and the students stood up to the old heads. The students basically, from what the reports are saying in the Atlanta Journal Constitution, is that the students were asked by Davidson, they before he let them participate in the vote to get whether we're going to get rid of the president or not. He wanted to find out what their vote was. So he wanted to make sure everything was stacked and set before the vote took place. So he's playing some heavy politics here, and the young people said, "No, we're not telling you. We're not telling you what we're going to do." And as a result, Davidson allegedly pushes them out of the vote and brings in a circle of people that he a bunch of yes men, and they go ahead and make that decision to get rid of Wilson, and then they inform everybody else after the fact. So the faculty, I think doing their due diligence, doing what they're supposed to do, came back and issued a no confidence vote against Davidson, got his ass out of there, and the school's on its way to trying to repair from this horrible situation. Where Morehouse lost right in this situation to me is they lost a damn good president, John Wilson. Again, I can't even say I really saw eye to eye with Wilson or loved him. I didn't love him, from a political standpoint. I thought he was too much of an Obama guy. And again, if he was too much of a Trump guy, I'd say the same thing. I just didn't like the idea of having anybody that was that much of a political animal running an HBCU. I didn't like that. But then again, maybe it helps him get access to resources. He did bring a lot of money into the school, but at the same time, there are a lot of presidents at HBCUs that were not happy with the Obama presidency. They did not feel that Obama and his crew really showed respect to HBCUs, and that's just me telling you the truth. It's not me trying to be critical. It's just the truth. And so I didn't like him from that regard, but the good things I can say are that I do know that when Russell Simmons and I reached out to John Wilson, well, I reached out to him on behalf of the project Russell Simmons and I were doing. We reached out to ask for Morehouse's support to ask the Obama administration to change his policy on mass incarceration. John Wilson signed on. He signed. He was one of the HBCU presidents that did sign on. And so when we wrote our letter, we were able to put his name there along with maybe about, gosh, I think 100 and something celebrities and whatever that were on this letter. I think from everybody from Jamie Foxx and Chris Rock to, even the Kardashians and Justin Bieber and Jesse Jackson and Michelle Alexander and a lot of people. And so it was great in the sense that we think it made a big difference because, in fact, a couple of days later, the Attorney General's office made a huge announcement on mass incarceration. So John helped with that, and I appreciated that. But also the other thing John did for the school was John, was great for increasing enrollment, bringing in money. He lifted Morehouse. Morehouse was struggling, and John came in and did an awesome job, and so for them to just get rid of him like that, it was purely a personal vendetta. And I don't even see why they can't go backward and fix what they did wrong. I can't see why you can't go back and get him to come back. I don't know enough about the situation to know that, but I'm sitting there thinking, why don't you bring him back? I mean, because the guy was getting the job done. And a lot of our HBCUs unfortunately struggle from horrific mismanagement. Just, people that just their egos make decisions rather than their conscience. And that's the problem. When you got egos making decisions, then what will happen is people will say, well, I'll let the whole ship sink as long as I get to keep my fancy office. Or I'll let the whole building burn down as long as it doesn't disrupt my power and my money. And I think that that's just shameful, with Morehouse. I mean, Morehouse is the Harvard. It is the Harvard or the Yale for the black community. It's one of the best that we've got in terms of what it can offer. I mean, Howard has the biggest endowment, and Howard is a powerhouse school. Howard is a powerhouse in my mind, it's a powerhouse in terms of research. Howard is one of the few HBCUs that is a tier one research institution, and that for that it deserves tremendous respect. But at the same time, there's something special about Morehouse and Spelman that give them kind of an elite status, almost like a Black Ivy League kind of appeal, and it's very hurtful when you see schools like Morehouse go through situations like this. Now, again, people fight, people argue all the time. I remember Harvard University had a problem like that when the president of the university was going to battle with Cornell West with his old racist butt. You had what was that president's name? Lawrence Summers, and so he basically had no respect for Cornell West or his research, and felt that Cornell West was adding no value to academia, and that kind of just speaks to the elitism of academia as well. A lot of times scholars are detached from the real world, so you have a lot of scholars that sit in their office, write these research papers that nobody ever reads, and they really feel like they're making a contribution to the world. But my philosophy is that if your work is not impacting the Black community in a meaningful way, then you might as well not exist. You know, you're pretty much just a factory worker with a lot of degrees, and letters behind your name. You're not really making much of a difference in the world. I mean, I'm not saying that you're a waste or that you wasted just your time on education, but education is meant to be shared. If education is not infectious, then what's the point? All that knowledge will die with you anyway. So who cares? So anyway, let me keep going. So let me read this article. Morehouse College. This is from April 5th. It says Morehouse College board members are encountering increasing criticism from students, faculty, and alumni about their decision making, which has now also drawn the interest of the college's accreditation agency. An official from the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools is scheduled to meet with faculty Thursday as part of a review to determine whether the board violated its own guidelines in January when voting to dismiss the president, John S. Wilson, when his contract expires in June. A woman for SACS, which is that accreditation agency we mentioned a second ago, said it is reviewing Morehouse at the behest of the faculty. So the faculty have basically said, y'all need to just come take a look. This is a problem. Our rights are being violated. The students' rights are being violated. We need some help. So it's almost like calling in the feds when the local police department has engaged in massive corruption. So here's the quote. Anytime information about a member institution hits the media, SACS makes a determination as to whether or not the allegations might put an institution out of compliance with any of our accreditation standards, said the spokeswoman Pamela Cravey. Recent media reports suggest that might be true at Morehouse. Faculty and student leaders contend that Morehouse board chairman Robert Davidson ignored legal advice by preventing student board members from participating in a January meeting when the board voted not to extend Wilson's contract. One student trustee, Jonathan Hill, said in court records that Davidson wanted to know how the students would vote on Wilson before allowing them to enter the meeting. So he literally basically said, I'll let you in as long as you are yes men like everybody else that's in the room. If you don't go along with what we're trying to do here, then you're not going to be allowed to come in, which is absolutely insane. I mean, just the worst type of corruption imaginable. You got to be careful when you do stuff like that. That kind of stuff will get you put in jail. Faculty members took the extraordinary step last month of a no confidence vote against Davidson, a Morehouse alum and business executive who lives near Los Angeles. Davidson said he wasn't available for an interview, which I'm not surprised by. He probably won't say another word about any of this. I know I wouldn't. He released this because I don't know, maybe not sent to jail, but at least sued. I wouldn't be surprised. I know the students did file a lawsuit to get an injunction or to try to get an injunction against what he was doing. But I don't know. I mean, if you're messing up my school like this with this kind of ridiculous behavior, I might sue you. I mean, why not? I mean, because this is crazy. Morehouse is going to lose millions of dollars because of this coonery. I mean, that's what it is. It's coonery. It's ridiculous. So I would personally sue. Because there's a real financial loss here. Davidson said he wasn't available for an interview. Let's see. He released a statement from the board accusing some faculty of counterproductive behavior. Pay attention now. Of counterproductive behavior by sharing internal documents with reporters and other information it says is inaccurate. So let's see. He also shared a letter updating the selection process for Wilson's replacement. Wilson, a Morehouse graduate who became president in 2013, declined comment. So Davidson's basically saying, y'all a bunch of haters, y'all a bunch of snitches. That's what he's basically saying. He's saying, well, the only thing that it's interesting. The only thing that he can really say, it seems, is, well, y'all shouldn't have told everybody our business. And I think that's interesting. That's a problem. So let's keep going. Let's see. In case you just chimed in, we are talking about Morehouse College and the craziness going on in Morehouse. The president, John Wilson, was recently replaced. The chairman of the board, Robert Davidson, was also given a no confidence vote by the faculty, so he was booted out too. And right now, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools is thinking about putting the school on probation, or at least they're investigating what's been going on in Morehouse, which could put their accreditation in jeopardy. Here, okay, so here's more from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Morehouse has more than 3 dozen board members, which is way too many. It's insane. It's far too many people to have on a board. You can't make good decisions when you got a board that big. And in fact, you're wasting a lot of money because a lot of them ain't doing nothing. They have more than 3 dozen board members, most of them current or retired business leaders. Only 1 dozen of them live in Georgia. So only 12 out of the 40 that are on the board actually live in the state of Georgia, which is interesting. Board members include civil rights pioneer and former UN ambassador Andrew Young. Okay, that makes sense. Chick-fil-A CEO Dan Cathy. I don't get that exactly, but he probably gave him some money or something. And former NAACP president Ben Jealous. Ben seems cool. Ben seems to have a. I know Ben a little bit. We didn't agree entirely, but Ben seems like he cares about black people. The board is scheduled to hold its monthly meeting Friday and Saturday. Some faculty members are worried that Sachs could put the nation's only historically black college for men on probation, which could hurt fundraising and student recruitment. You're damn right it will. Quote, we'd like to get some clarity about the board and how it can change, said English professor Cindy Ludenbacher, who's been a Morehouse faculty member for 27 years. Well, so that's a real sacrifice. I mean, she's really given a chunk of her life to this school. And those are the people you need to listen to. We're very disheartened, she said. We feel like we've been ignored. Morehouse is such a great institution. I'd hate to see it harmed in any way. The feud comes at what should have been a celebratory time for Morehouse. The college marked its 150th anniversary in February. The board vote was announced on the birthday of its most famous alumnus, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Wow. So on Dr. King's birthday, you pretty much destroy the institution, or try to destroy the institution that Dr. King helped make famous. Good for you. Way to go. Good job, Mr. Davidson. You have officially made yourself Donkey of the Week. I'm not putting this on John Wilson. I don't know John. I can't speak to. Maybe there's something about him that I don't know. Maybe there are forces and factors that I'm not aware of. But based on what I'm reading and what I'm seeing, it just seems like this whole issue with a few stodgy board members, Davidson being the leader of this pack, just kind of got mad maybe because Wilson didn't play their game. It seems to me that, because I remember I was reading one of the reports from an outside consultancy that came to Morehouse to see what was going on and to give them an assessment of the board. And a couple of things that were interesting was, number one, their recommendations were blocked from being viewed by board members. And Wilson wrote an email to Davidson basically saying, why didn't you let the board see the recommendations from the outside consulting agency? So that means, so my argument, my theory is that anybody who suppresses information in that way, and you saw where the students are saying that Davidson was suppressing their vote. Anybody who suppresses information in that way has an agenda, and it's typically a selfish agenda. It's an agenda that that will facilitate the promotion of propaganda, false information, that will basically get people to do what you want them to do. So it really reeks of undemocratic manipulation by this chairman. I mean, just absolute. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. I'm just seeing this very interesting behavior that's really, I mean, just on the level of some of the worst dictators that we see in Africa, North Korea, and other places. Um, so that was interesting that the report was blocked, and then also, it seemed to me that Wilson, I know in another email, Wilson was kind of acknowledging the personal difference and kind of saying, like, can't we just kind of get past that in order to do what's best for the students? And it seemed like Davidson wasn't into that, based on what I saw. And then finally, you have these complaints that were written up in the report where they were saying that people were concerned, or some board members had an issue with the fact that Wilson wasn't exactly one of those shake hands and kiss babies kinds of guys. He actually did oh my God. I mean, he actually cared about doing his job more than he cared about all of the nonsense. He's a serious guy. He's not a guy that's going to sit around engaged in bullshit when there's real work that needs to be done. He's not going to sit around, hanging out with the cronies when the students are in dire need. He's not a person that's going to spend lots of money on lavish, ridiculous ceremonies when the school is in dire financial straits. So I would argue that Wilson is exactly what the school needed. I mean, you need that outsider that's going to. Every HBCU needs a cleansing. Every HBCU in this country needs some kind of cleansing from outsiders who truly love Black people, who truly care about the students, who get absolute power to come in and break certain things down and rebuild them in the image that they need to be built. Because I'm gonna tell you like this: look, a lot of these schools are wasting a whole lot of money. A lot of the schools don't, they spend far more than they need to do the job that they have to do. You find, and it's not just true with HBCUs. You've got a lot of universities and various backgrounds that do the same thing. But it really shouldn't cost you. A student shouldn't have to pay $50,000 a year to get a college education. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. It's insane. It's ridiculous. Um, if I know people that want to go to various HBCUs. I know somebody that just went signed up to go to Howard, which is another school that's had its issues. And I was looking at the tuition bill and I said, this is ridiculous. This is insane to me. There's nothing. I'm a big advocate for going to school. My first book, the first book I ever wrote was actually called Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About College. And I just gave students the inside scoop on everything I've learned being a professor over 20 years. And I wanted them to have what they needed to do well, because I did really well in college. I made straight A's all the way through. I had a full-time job. I had my daughter was born when I was 18, and I didn't have time to mess around. So I was in college. I kind of killed it. It was very easy to do because I knew how to manage time. That was the key, was time management. A lot of these kids just don't know how to make use of the time that they have. So I wrote the book to make that point, also because I felt that a college education is one of the key pathways to getting out of poverty, getting opportunity, finding success, whatever it is you're trying to find. Education did a lot for me. But 20 years later, or actually the book was written in 2004, 13 years later, the world has changed. The world has changed. There are lots of ways to get a good education besides paying somebody $50,000 a year. It is a problem because most millennials, the average millennial, is going to die in debt, which defeats the purpose. It defeats the purpose. It's almost like somebody saying, well, take these vitamins and they're going to make you healthy, right? The vitamins are the education. But then they make you eat so many vitamins that you die. Well, if you eat so many vitamins that you die, then the vitamins didn't help you at all. So the same thing is true when it comes to education. 20,000 in loans to go to school for 4 years makes sense. 30,000 in loans can make sense. Even 40,000 might make sense. But 70, 80, 90, 100,000 that people are racking up in debt to get a master's degree or a PhD. Don't talk. I know people that are $250,000, 300,000. One lady emailed me and said she was $500,000 in debt, and that they had just put her out of her medical school program. And I'm like, and she's like, well, what do I do? What is my what is my financial solution? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, you might want to go work for whoever replaced Pablo Escobar might be able to help you with that. Maybe you could go slang some. I mean, and that's a lot of money. I mean, 400,000 in debt, and you didn't even get the degree. Are you crazy? Like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I am a financial, financial expert. My PhD's in finance, but I'm not Harry Potter. You can't just sort of magically make money appear. So my point in all that is to say that a lot of what I see with college education is really kind of messy. One of the reasons that I personally moved away from academia is because of the bureaucracy like this, where you'll have people that, for personal reasons, will make decisions that are not to the benefit of the institution, that actually harm the students because their egos are involved or because they're trying to protect their power. And it is horrible. So I'm not sitting there trying to say Morehouse or HBCUs are the only ones that have this problem. If you go back and Google search my battle with Syracuse University, you'll see the same thing. The students, I had a lot of students that loved me. It was a lot of the Black students thought I was great. But it didn't matter because you had powerful white people who said we want that nigga gone. What he's doing is we don't like it. It's disruptive. Bill O'Reilly was attacking me, trying to get me fired. So basically, they were just like, we just need to get him out of here. So they at that point there was no concern whatsoever about what was best for the students. So I think that's a personal thing for me. I really get angry when people get so caught up in their own egos that they don't want to do what's best for the people that they're supposed to serve. The students have the power. I saw somebody ask me earlier, he said, what is your advice for somebody who's going to go to Morehouse College, who's going to be a Morehouse alum in the year 2021? My advice to you, young man, is number one, study your ass off. Don't fall for the nonsense, and don't fall for the poisonous addiction to mediocrity that affects some of our people. There are people that when I was in school, I used to study 6, 7, 8 hours a day. That's what I did in college, in undergrad. And my logic was very basic. My logic was, well, if I'm going to get a job one day and I'm going to work 8 hours a day, then why not go ahead and start now? That way, the benefits will last me for the rest of my life. Because if I don't work hard now, and I'm going to be working 8, 9, 10 hours a day later on, and I'll be making $10, $15 an hour. So I said, if I work hard now, then I can get benefits for the rest of my life, and I can make a lot more money later on down the line, or have a lot more freedom and all this other stuff. And it's so strange to me how people just thought that was weird. People just thought I was such a weirdo because I believed in studying 7 or 8 hours a day. And I'm like, no, Asian students do it all the time because their families don't play that shit. Their families are about excellence. You go home to an Asian family and you tell them, Mom, I made a D on my test because I was getting ready for the step show. They're going to smack you in your face and kick you through the glass window. They're going to look at you like you are out of your damn mind. But you'll see black people on campuses that will have mediocre grades, sub-mediocre grades, but will have a pristine step show. That don't make no damn sense to me. I'm not saying that this is not anti-step show. It's basically saying put your damn priorities first. Make sure you handle your business first before you start getting into the nonsense. Because what will happen is you'll have people that'll waste all their opportunities, sit around doing nothing, don't want to work, don't want to plan, don't want to have any goals. And then 10 years later, they're like, oh, the white man's got his foot on my neck. And it's hard out here. I mean, it's easy for you, Dr. Watkins, because you're doing good. But the rest of us, we out here struggling. I'm like, well, we were in college together. You had the same opportunities as me. But when I told you to go to the library with me, you told me you wanted to go to the party. When I was like, let's get ready for this test, you wanted to go kick it with your frat brothers. So at the end of the day, it's like Sun Tzu said in the Art of War. Sun Tzu said that battles are won before they begin. And all he's saying is that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That basically, if you prepare in advance, then you will control the future. Malcolm X said that education is the passport to the future. He who's educated today will control the future. So if you don't control the future, somebody's going to control you. So if you don't prepare now, then just go ahead and prepare yourself to be a slave. If you're not prepared now, then you will be somebody's damn slave one day because you didn't take an opportunity to grab freedom when it was in your grasp. So that's my first piece of advice to that young student. Study your butt off. Pursue excellence. Black people are excellent. We are supposed to be extraordinary. We are not supposed to be mediocre. We're not supposed to be thug niggas like you hear in the music. We're not supposed to be lazy. We're not supposed to just sit around and watch TV all day. We're supposed to be outstanding and extraordinary at everything that we do. That's the first piece of advice. Second piece of advice I would give him is every black person that wants a strong economic future needs to know how to have their own business. Even if you plan on climbing the corporate ladder, even if you plan on getting a great job one day, even if you're going into medicine, law, whatever, philosophy, whatever it is that you're going into, almost every field has a business model. Those who understand business models are typically the ones who are best able to find their way to money. Because the people who understand business models know where money comes from. They have a whole different perspective on how money is made. They understand what can be done with money to make it grow into more money. They know how to get money if they come up short on money. They know all those things. People who never know business models, all they know how to do is go beg for a job. That's all they know how to do. And if the job that they have doesn't give them what they want, all they do is they go beg for a different job. And for a black person, it's a very dangerous way to live. Very dangerous way to live. Very dangerous because you're in extreme um, risk of being trapped in a dire situation that you can't get out of, which is the key to being depressed. If you ever want to be depressed to the point where you might be suicidal and you might not be, um, put yourself in a situation that you can't get out of, where you feel trapped. Put yourself in a bad marriage. Put yourself in a job that you hate. Put yourself in extreme debt. You live paycheck to paycheck, and then you're gonna feel like you're in a little bitty box and you can't even move. You're gonna feel like you are in a prison cell. So if you want options, then you must gain the skill to be able to create options where there are none. Opportunities should never be something that you seek. Opportunities should be something you know how to create. When I learned to create opportunities, my life became wide open. I felt that the world was my oyster. I felt that I could do whatever I wanted. Um, I felt very comfortable with my life. And it's a lot of it is like if you play sports, you know what I'm talking about. Have you ever anybody play basketball or if you don't play basketball, just kind of bear with me on this analogy. When you play basketball, my problem when I play basketball is I would always dribble with my right hand and I couldn't dribble with my left. And so when people see that you can only dribble with your right hand, what they do is they block off your right and you can't do anything because you don't have the ability to go left. You can't make any moves. So I took a lot of time to say, I'm going to learn how to dribble with my left hand no matter what it takes. I'm going to practice over and over and over again to dribble with my left hand. So once I learned how to dribble with my left hand, my game opened wide up. I was able to make a lot of moves that I couldn't make before. It was much harder to defend me. You couldn't keep me from the basket because I knew how to spin better and make moves and get around the defense and find ways to get the ball into the hoop that I didn't have before when I could only dribble with my right. So somebody who only knows how to seek out a job is like somebody who only knows how to dribble with their right hand. It's easy to block you. It's easy to trap you. It's easy to oppress you. That's all it is. That's all basketball defense is. It's like a sports version of oppression. The white man is the defender, and he knows you can only dribble to the right, so he blocks off your right, and he says, because this nigga can't go left, so he's stopping you every time you try to make a move. But guess what? When you learn how to dribble with your left hand, then suddenly you become a lot harder to defend. There are a lot of things that I can say and do right now that no white person on earth can stop me from saying or doing because I learned how to dribble with my left hand. I learned how to create opportunities for myself. I learned how to open the game wide up so that they can't stop me as easily as they could before. It doesn't mean they can't. It doesn't mean they can't figure out a way to stop me maybe eventually, but I'm a lot harder to block than some guy who's become dependent on a corporate job who has to zip his lip up every time oppression happens because they know that that nigga ain't gonna speak up unless speak up at risk of losing his job. Right? So what I'm saying to you is that at the end of the day, you have to create options for yourself. There's no better piece of advice I can give anybody than to say create options. Always have options. That's it. Last piece of advice I would give the brother who's asking about Morehouse is, that school belongs to you. You're the students. Students on college campuses rarely realize how much power they have or how much power they're supposed to have. What they do is they distract you with Lil Wayne concerts and help you make you believe that you don't have power, that they're running the show. But that's not true. You're running the show. The school operates off your tuition money. You have the right to tell the directors what to do. And the students at Morehouse, what made me so proud of them, the ones that went and filed the lawsuit, was I think they understood that. They were like, no, this is our school. You had your chance. You graduated in 1972 or whatever. Good for you. But stop holding on. Stop acting like we're going to run the school in 2017 the way it was ran in 1972. No. This is not the disco era, dog. This is 2017. New landscape, new opportunities. New university. We're moving into the future. We're not trying to hold on to the past. So the students, I really commend the students and the faculty at this school for saying that they care more about this school than they care about some Negro's ego sitting on the board of directors. God bless the chairman and God bless his buddies. And I don't know, I might even know some of these guys who are on the board. I know people, they know me. I don't know who I know. I forget because I don't care. All I care about is talking to you right now. But at the end of the day, you got to realize, older people, I'm talking about people even in my age group. Sometimes you got to realize that you need to sit down and shut up and move out of the way. You need to groom younger people to kind of take over so that they can become leaders too. You're not going to live forever. And you have that problem with black leadership in general. You got a bunch of old stodgy ass people, mostly men, who refuse to let go. Who literally, you sitting there 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, and you still trying to be the man all the time. And you should get that respect. People will exalt you because they honor your contribution, but you got to make room for people that are coming along behind you. That doesn't make any sense. Because if you don't, then when you die, the leadership dies with you. The organization dies with you. The movement dies with you. And that doesn't make any sense. So I thought what the students did was great. I encourage any young person who goes to a college campus to raise absolute hell the entire time you're there. Just make sure you're raising hell for a good reason. Think it through. And if you say, well, that ain't right, that don't make no sense. After that, raise hell. When we were on campus, when I was at University of Kentucky in the 90s, we raised hell. And we didn't even know if it was going to work. They threatened us. They told us the police were going to come and hit us upside the head with billy clubs and all that. And we were like, well, damn, that's going to hurt. But you know what? We're still going to fight you. And we fought anyway. And it was kind of like swinging in the dark. I didn't really understand bureaucratic processes and administrative protocols and and what paperwork needs to be filed before certain things are going to happen. And what happened in that situation was that my ignorance was bliss. My ignorance, the fact that I didn't understand the system and I had no respect for the system, was my best way to counter the system. Because what will ultimately happen a lot of times is that bureaucracy gets in the way of doing the right thing. There are so many situations where bureaucratic processes, all man-made, all some shit somebody made up, blocks the ability of noble people to do what needs to be done. So part of the reason that there's no progress in this country, for example, look at Congress right now. Look at Congress right now. Your Congress can't do anything. They can't even authorize the mowing of the White House lawn because the Democrats are so busy fighting with the Republicans, and so-and-so's filibustering this person who's got the amendment to the clause of the, and nothing gets done. Nothing happens. And it's not just for, it's not just to the detriment of black people. It's to the detriment of the Republicans and Democrats combined. Donald Trump, for example, couldn't even get Obamacare repealed. And that was the #1 campaign issue that he ran on, other than building that wall in Mexico. All Trump told the white folks that voted for him was, we're going to build that wall and we're going to repeal Obamacare. He ain't able to get neither one of those things done. And I'm going to tell you what, and this is a good parallel between Morehouse and our country at large. Our country is going to fall apart under the weight of its own bullshit. It's going to fall apart because the founding fathers, as much as everybody says that they were so brilliant and all this other stuff, that ain't true. The founding fathers built a government that is designed for extreme gridlock because everybody can block everybody else, and people spend more time blocking than they spend trying to advance anything. So because it's easier to tear something down than it is to build something better up. So effectively, America, like for example, we're sitting on $19 trillion in debt. You've got people as brilliant as Warren Buffett, as powerful as Warren Buffett, who are saying that this debt is unsustainable. It's going to ruin our country. Here's a simple rule to get rid of the debt. He said, Warren Buffett, and I believe him, he said, I could get rid of the deficit in 5 minutes. And I believe him because his plan actually made sense. The problem is that you've got so many people that are more concerned about their own situation, their own chances for reelection, their own little paycheck, that they don't care about what's best for the country. They will destroy the country if it protects their power. So the same thing you see happening in Capitol Hill is exactly what you saw happening in Morehouse. The difference is I can't really stop what's happening at Capitol Hill. I can't make them do anything. They're not going to listen to me, you, anybody else. The 50 million Americans can say the same thing, and they're going to ignore 50 million people. That's how messed up the system is. But we do have a chance when it comes to saving Morehouse. We do have a chance when it comes to saving Morehouse. And the secret to saving Morehouse, in my opinion, and other institutions that are similar to me, is going to be with the students being politically educated and being no nonsense when it comes to addressing the Board of Trustees and holding them accountable, and the faculty. The faculty, have been really, I think, incredibly impressive and noble when it comes to standing up against the bureaucracy. The third element, in my opinion, will be outside forces. I think outside entities, starting maybe with this accreditation board. I get a little nervous about that because I don't know how I feel about other people from other communities coming in and comment on HBCUs and stuff like that. But I think outside forces that can come in and sort of push the school into shape will make a difference as well. Because sometimes with a lot of institutions that are sort of bound to tradition, you need the outside forces to come in and say, I don't care how many years you've been doing this, this isn't working right now. It's not to your benefit. And so I love that school. I love Morehouse. I've spoken there before. I met the former president. I can't remember his name. My beloved grandmother Felicia. Right before she died, I took her to Morehouse with me to meet the brother who was the president at the time. I don't know why his name is not in my head anymore, but he was a very nice guy. Professors like Brian Marks are there, and I just have so much respect for them. But I think at the same time, you got to call it for what it is. You got to call it for what it is. And I have high hopes for Morehouse. Now, if you want to know about the HBCU that I'm affiliated with, it's called Simmons College of Kentucky. Simmons College. The reason I joined Simmons College, I've interviewed with HBCUs in the past. It just didn't quite work out. I went to Howard, and I remember I got interviewed by a Chinese man who was running my department, and he didn't see any value in me being there as an African American. I remember I went to, I think it was North Carolina Central, and when I was there, I remember that the person that interviewed me was not from, he wasn't an African American, he was from Africa. And he told me, according to him, he said that the whole business school uh, did not have any, if I'm not mistaken, any African American male professors, which I thought was absolutely criminal, unbelievable. It doesn't make sense that an HBCU wouldn't have any African American male professors. Now they have some Africans there, but not African Americans. That's a very big difference. And then I spoke to someone at Prairie View A&M. And when I talked to them, the one of the things that bothered me was the lady who was advising me and coaching me on how to get ready for, my interviews pretty much said, well, all the stuff you're doing on the internet needs to shut down. You got to shut that down. And I was like, well, why would you want me to shut this down? I think this could be good for the school. I could promote the school. I could tell people about the school. Well, some of your colleagues might get jealous and they may not like you doing it. I'm like, well, so you're telling me that I got to dim my light to make other people feel comfortable? That's insane to me. Never, never, ever dim your light because other people are blinded by the glare of it. Don't ever do that. Don't ever allow somebody to suppress you into mediocrity. Don't ever do that. I'm talking to everybody who's listening right now. Don't, the more success you have in doing what you do, and the more you let your light shine to the world and become good at whatever it is that you choose to do, the more people you're going to have that are for whatever reason going to be uncomfortable with it for whatever reason. Sometimes it could be because of your style. So some people think I'm an asshole. Maybe they're right sometimes. Sometimes I can be an asshole. I'm sure. I try not to be, but maybe I got asshole DNA inside my body sometimes that comes out every now and then. But then most of the time, people's jealousy or disdain for what you're doing, it's an internal poison that they're carrying around. Some sort of that issue where and you ever go through this? I go through this. I'm gonna tell you what I go through. This is me putting myself on blast. For the longest time, when I'm 5'8", I like to believe I'm 6'5", but I'm only 5'8". For the longest time, I would stand if I stood next to guys that were really tall, like 6'6", 6'7". It will remind me of how short I was, and I hated it. I'd be like, damn, I feel like George Jefferson right now because this guy makes me feel like I'm a little kid, like or like I'm Gary Coleman, like feel like Arnold or Webster or something. And I hated that, right? And that makes me think about jealousy. Sometimes your success, that's why your friends can be jealous of you. Sometimes your success can remind them of their own lack of success. Seeing you grow so tall makes them remember how short they are. The fact that you've gone so far makes them feel bad about the fact that they haven't gone anywhere. And so a lot of times when you get jealousy from a friend, a lot of times it'll just come from the fact that you might be as nice, mind you, you might be as nice as you can be or whatever, but they just may be looking at you and feeling bad about themselves, which reflects itself by them either wanting to get away from you, them criticizing you, them somehow believing, well, the reason you're successful is because you took a shortcut, things like that. I went through that with a friend of mine one time when I was in undergrad. I remember me and my homeboy, he's a Q dog. He went to Emory Law School. And we both applied to law school at the same time. I didn't go to law school, but we both applied at the same time. He applied to the University of Kentucky Law School maybe 6 months in advance. And they put him on the waiting list, and he was stuck on the waiting list for a really long time. And I would be like, hey, did they let you in? And he'd be like, no, man, I'm still on the waiting list. I'd be like, oh man, I hope you get in. I decided I wanted to apply to the University of Kentucky Law School just for fun. I didn't want to go to that school. I didn't. I wanted to go to a better school, but I thought, well, why not? Because I had the highest GPA of all the black students on campus, and he did too. His GPA used to be high until he pledged. When he pledged to fraternity, his GPA plummeted. So he spent a lot of years trying to recover. So that's why that's what where the difference was. And so I went and I applied to the University of Kentucky Law School on the last day before the deadline. And literally, the deadline was May 5th at 5 p.m. I applied May 5th at 2 p.m. Like that. I walked my application to the school because I knew it wouldn't get there in time if I mailed it. The very next morning, the dean of the law school called me and offered me a full ride for 3 straight years. Just, 3 years law school free, whatever. I wasn't going to take it because I had better offers, but I thought it was cool. I was 22. It was like an ego thing. I ain't gonna lie. And so I told my homeboy, I'm like, man, can you believe this? She made me an offer. Like, she told me I could go there for free, a full ride, full tuition, full room and board, presidential fellow, all of this stuff. And I'm really happy. I'm thinking, this is my boy. He's gonna be happy for me. But I forgot that they still had him on the waiting list. That he still had not actually received anything, any word back from the school. And I didn't even think about that. And so lo and behold, later on, he's kind of saying little nasty things about me, and it confused the hell out of me because, I didn't understand why would your friend be jealous of you? And really what I would do now if I could go back and change that is that I wouldn't have bragged, as much to him about what happened. I still would have done it, and I still would have felt good about it. I wouldn't have been ashamed of it, but I wouldn't have, spoken so much about it because it ended up kind of rubbing it in his face. And that's kind of like a real life example to help you understand. So going back, I was talking about the Prairie View A&M situation. One of the things is, I believe in the idea of being humble about what you do. You're not better than anybody else, no matter how much you accomplish. You have to respect people, all that good stuff. And I think that's fine. You do that. Like, so if I was to work there, I probably wouldn't have, I don't think I would have run up and down the hallway and said, I'm Boyce Watkins, damn it. Bow to me. I wouldn't have done that. But I'll be damned if you're going to make me feel guilty because I work harder than you. You're not going to make me feel guilty because I made a sacrifice that you weren't willing to make. I'm not going to kill all my opportunities because somehow that makes you uncomfortable. And I'm gonna tell everybody in here right now, don't you do that. Don't you dare do that. You go out here and you be successful. You go kick some ass. Know that the more success you have, the more haters you're probably gonna get. You love them anyway. You do what you can to be nice to them, but some people are still going to be salty no matter what you do. And so anyway, I politely told the lady at Prairie View, I told her she could kiss my ass. I said, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. I'm not going to, I'm reaching black people now. And this was years ago before I'd really, I mean, now we reach a lot of people, but back then it was just getting started. But I was like, I'm not going to kill that, just because, now if you give me a good reason to kill it, maybe I'll think about it. But that's not a good reason that, oh, certain people are going to be uncomfortable. No, that's not a good reason. So that was why I didn't go to Prairie View. And I addressed that sometimes because I had a lot of people that criticized me for not teaching at HBCU. But a lot of times they don't know the dynamics. They don't know that I tried. They don't know what I went through. They don't understand. Like, a lot of HBCUs also are very conservative. So as you see, I'm not a conservative person in the way I communicate. I'm not conservative or liberal politically, but in terms of the way I speak the truth in a raw way. And not everybody's ready for that, right? Some people get turned off maybe if I use profanity or if I use an analogy they don't like, or if I talk about somebody that they love or respect, or I question something that they've always believed in. But I think life is too short for you to live a lie just because you become addicted to that lie. I think life is too short for you to keep on believing something or doing something just because that's what's been done from so many years before you. That doesn't make any sense. So I think that in this moment, in this time that we have right now, 2017, 2018, 2019, you got to understand when this time is over, it's going to be gone. So you ain't got time to waste time on nonsense. You have to tell the truth. You got to do right by yourself, right by your family, right by the world. And sometimes that means taking on nasty, ugly battles. Because here's the thing about black people that we got to accept. The way we do things right now ain't working. The way things are right now, it ain't working in our favor. So if we continue to do things the way we've been doing them, continue to hold on to these traditions because that's what people have been doing since the 1950s, then we're going to just have the same problems in the year 2057 that we're having in 2017. you're not going to see any progress. So only radical ideas are going to lead to us creating the world that we want to live in. So I say, find the truth wherever it lies and go after it. So I finally found an HBCU that could tolerate me and stomach me, and that's Simmons College of Kentucky. The president, Dr. Kevin Cosby, is a man I respect a lot, and we have similar ideologies. We are both huge supporters and students of Dr. Claude Anderson, who wrote Black Labor, White Wealth, and Powernomics. We've talked for many years, and our ideas are very similar and consistent across the board. So Dr. Cosby reached out and he offered to develop an institute in my name, the Dr. Boyce Watkins Economic Empowerment Institute. And basically, that's my HBCU home. So I am part of the HBCU family finally. In high school, I couldn't afford to go to an HBCU because I didn't have the grades, I didn't have the money. In grad school, I just chose not to for whatever reason. There weren't any programs in my field that I wanted to attend. The finance PhD programs are not really that well developed in HBCUs, but I did get into Columbia and a few other places. And then for when I became a faculty member, I couldn't really teach at an HBCU because again my style was a little bit too much. But now I found a place, and so as a member of an HBCU, I personally feel that we have to be a little more radical in terms of addressing some of the nonsense. So if you want to know why I'm talking about what's going on in Morehouse, is because I think that it's worth discussing. I think it's something that we need to learn from so that we can create the community that we want to have. Point blank, period. Somebody says, I need to put Dr. B in my wallet. Well, I don't want to be in your wallet. I don't want to be that close to another man's butt. But if you do want me on your cell phone, I actually do have an app if you're interested. If you go to the Android store or the iPhone store, wherever you download iPhone apps, you can find the Dr. Boyce Watkins app. Just type Boyce Watkins in, and you'll find my app. Just be warned. Once I'm on your phone, you're gonna be looking at me every day, looking real serious. Also, before I go on, I want to mention to you, I'll be in Atlanta, DC, and Los Angeles this month. You can go to drboyceatlanta.com if you're interested, drboycedc.com, or drboycelosangeles.com. So it's Dr. Boyce Atlanta, Dr. Boyce DC, Dr. Boyce Los Angeles if you want to buy tickets. And then finally, if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. And then last but not least, if you want to join any of our programs in the Black Business School, we have a program on how to start a business, a program on how to buy a franchise, a program on how to invest in the stock market, etc. You can go to blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's blackfinancialliteracy.com. We teach everybody from adults to children. We have 5,000 children in our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow program, and it's going really well. And that's our plan. Our secret plan is we want to take over the world by taking over the children. When we reclaim our kids, we will reclaim our freedom. But here's the bad news. You are not going to live to see it. It is not going to happen in your lifetime. The glorious days are going to be, maybe 100 years from now. So you will be like in football. You'll be like the lineman who blocks for the running back and who doesn't even get to see the running back dancing in the end zone. But that's okay. Let's block, let's plant seeds, let's kick some ass. And then one day our kids are going to be dancing in the end zone and they're going to look back and say, we need to thank those old people from 2017 because they laid the foundation. So let's lay the foundation and get it done. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have an awesome day. And I love you very much. Peace.